So in our last class, we have discussed about the rule constraints. We have discussed about the rule constraints. We are having different rule constraints: knowledge type constraint, data constraint, dimensional or level constraint, interestingness constraint, rule constraints. Like this, we have discussed in the last class about constraint-based association mining. Here, knowledge type constraint specifies the constraint regarding what kind of knowledge you want to extract. Either it may be the association rule, that you want to extract either association rule or correlation rule about what. So these kinds of constraints can be specified under knowledge type constraint. Coming to the data constraint, it specifies the it is specifically about the task relevant data. So what kind of particular data you want to retrieve or you want to extract. Similarly, you are having dimensional or level constraints. So among all the dimensions, among multiple dimensions present for a particular data set, what dimension, what attributes you want to retrieve for your query. Similarly, interestingness constraints. Here also, we have several measures of interestingness, right? Support content, chi-square, etc. So out of all those, which measures you want to pose on your query? So those kinds of constraints are comes under interestingness constraints and the rule constraints. So it specifies the form of rule to be mined. which form of rule you want to mine like that. So similarly, we are having for a given constraint. For a given constraint, you are having some meta rule, which is nothing but a template or a framework based on which you can actually frame your actual rule. So this acts as a rule template or framework. So here, for example, in order to go depth into the rule into the constraints, different constraints we are having. Let us consider an example. Here is the given query. This is already discussed in the last class. So in the query, what they're asking is, we need to find the sales of which cheap items should promote the sales of expensive items. And they have also given some constraints that cheap item in the sense sum of all items price should less than 100, and costliest item in the sense its price minimum price starts with 500. And at the same time, both the cheap and costliest items should belong to the same group, and the place belongs, the city belongs to the Chicago, and this is all these transactions are belonging to the year 2004. Like this, in the query itself, they have given several constraints. First, let us and it's given a DMQL, data mining query language is given here. So for this query, so for this, first let us categorize. Here, since here we are having different rule constraints, we know that. So first, let us categorize which part of the query belongs to which constraint. Which part of the query belongs to which constraint. So here, coming to the knowledge type. So here, if you observe the first line here, here it indicates that we need to mine the association rule. Here we need to mine the association rule. So we can conclude that this is the knowledge type. This represents the knowledge type. Just wait a second. Knowledge constraint. This is the knowledge constraint. Similarly, we are having data constraints. Data constraints lives in Chicago in line 2. Here, this part and also this one represents the data constraint. These two represents the data constraint. So it tells that which data you need to concentrate on. Similarly, next one is dimensionality or level constraint. So if you consider the tables directly, coming to the lives in table, so which dimensions we particularly required for this query? Anyone from the student side? Which dimensions, particularly from this table, which dimensions we want? We want the customer name to execute this query expression. We want the customer name and given Chicago. So we want the city, and coming to this table, we want the transaction name, item name we want, and group and price are required or not? Group and price are required or not? From the second table. Number 2. Number 2. Group and price are required or not here? Since they are asking that all the customers belonging to the, all the transactions, all the items belonging to the same group, all the items should belonging to the same group. So here group is required. Again, they have mentioned something related to the price. So here price is also required. And coming to the fourth table, transaction. Here transaction ID is required and day, month are not needed, but year is needed. Why? Because here in the query they have mentioned the year. So all these selected attributes are into the dimensionality or level constraint. And coming to the interestingness constraint. Interestingness constraints, if you observe line 7 and 8, here we are having several interestingness constraints. So support is there and confidence is there. These two are the interestingness constraints. And coming to the rule constraints, these are from lines 4 and 6. So if you observe here from the lines 4 and 6, we are having several constraints, several rule constraints. Those are the year should be equal to 2004 and both groups should be same. And similarly here you are having the price, some of the prices of cheapest items should be less than 100 and the price of costliest item should start with the 500. So all these constraints are comes under rule constraints. So constraints from these two lines, right? Line 4 and 6. Constraints from line 4 and 6 are comes under rule constraints. So like that, here you can categorize from a given DMQL, you can categorize the different constraints from that. So you can identify different constraints from that actually. So here I will explain of what it mean by question mark here plus here later. So let us go to the next topic here. So as I said earlier, here they have given which part of the DMQL belongs to the which constraint. And here is the meta rule. Here is the meta rule. So this is taken from line 2. So here line 2 represents the meta rule, which is called as the hybrid dimensional rule. So here it can be elaborated as lives in Chicago and sales. Plus in the sense we can have more repeated predicates like this. So here we have multiple sales predicates you can write here. So sales CI1 S1 to IK SK you can write here, where the item I is the item set consisting of the items from I1 to IK. Similarly, the item set is consisting of the items from I1 to IK. Similarly, here also we are having J1 and T1. Actually, what is I and what is S initially? So let us go back to the sales table. We can understand much. So in the sales table, having three attributes. Let us go back to the sales table. Here we are having three attributes like customer name, item name, PID. So here you can observe that here C indicates the customer name and I indicates the item name and S1 indicates that means S indicates the TID, transaction ID. So here, if you observe the meta rule, we are having two parts. This is the left side of the part and this is the right side of the part. So here the item name and its corresponding ID may belong to the cheapest item. And here the J and T, here also the item name and corresponding ID should belong to the costliest item. Why? Because our query, let's come to this example, you can get the clear view about this. Here in this example, this is the actual mind rule drawn from this, drawn based on the above meta rule as a template. So based on this template, we have, and based on the given conditions, we have we have mined some association rule. Let us go through this. Here lives in C, Chicago. Customer lives in Chicago and sales. We are mentioning two items, census CD and MS Office. Implies sales of SQL server with certain support and confidence because the given measures are support and confidence. Interesting measures are support and confidence. So here this is actually the mind rule which reflects the given meta rule. Which reflects the given meta rule. Okay. So here if you consider if you observe here, say here we are dealing with the two items. One item is the census CD and the second item is the MS Office. Second item is the MS Office. So if at all the customer purchases the items together, census CD and MS Office, he is most probably going to purchase the SQL server, where the cost of the census CD and MS Office together is less than what's the criteria there? What's the condition? Less than 100. The cost of this 1 and 2, we are discussing about three items totally. The cost of this 1 and 2 should be less than 100, where the cost of SQL server, cost of the item 3 greater than or equal to 500. So this is the constraint they have given in our query. So by satisfying such constraints, we can mind the association rules like this. So here, if you observe the left-hand side of the rule, the items present in the left-hand side of the rule, what are the items present here? Census CD and MS Office. The cost of those items should be less than 100. So here is the cheapest item, low-cost items. Here is the low-cost item. If you consider here on the right-hand side of the rule, we are having item 3 whose cost should be greater than or equal to 500. So here high cost items should present. Here high cost items should present. So here here I indicates the item name and S indicates its corresponding TID. TID of what? Yes, TID. Similarly, here J indicates the costliest item name and T indicates its corresponding transaction ID. So here what they're telling is from this here what they're trying to convey is the cheapest items, we are having multiple cheapest items. So the range of the cheapest items is from I1 to IK. Similarly, the corresponding transaction numbers may be from S1 to SK. Similarly, we may have more than one costliest item. So the range of the costliest items is from 1 to M, whereas the respective transaction IDs are from 1 to M. So here a question mark indicates that. Hello. So here question mark. Here you have identified a question mark. It indicates that here question mark indicates that the name of the item should be printed. Here there is no question mark, which indicates that it shouldn't be printed. That's why here we have mentioned in the actual mind rule, we have mentioned the name of the item. We don't mention the transaction. We don't mention the transaction ID. So that is indicated by the question mark here. Okay, I think the meta rule is DMQL is clear now, right? So this is about the constraints. So these are all the rule constraints from line 4 and 6. So here we are having several types of rule constraints. Again here we are having several types of rule constraints. Anti-monotonic, monotonic, Sakhian, convertible and inconvertible. Sakhian, convertible and inconvertible. Coming to the anti-monotonic. Listen carefully. The anti-monotonic and monotonic constraints. All these are the types of rule constraints. What is the rule constraint? This is the last one. We are having multiple constraints, right? We are having multiple constraints. Out of all this is the last one. And I'm telling that there are several types of rule constraints. Here we are. So we have 5 types of rule constraints, and these two are very close together, and little confusion is there among these two. So listen carefully. So if suppose here is an item AB and its superset is ABC and its subset is A. That means here we have considered that we are having three levels. In the level 1, we are having one item, whereas in level 2, we are having, whereas in, sorry, okay, in level 3, we are having one item, whereas in level 2, we are having two items, and in level 3, we are having
one item.
Yes. In level 3, we are having one item, level 2, we are having two items, and level 1, we are having three items. Okay. So, similarly, here also I'm writing the same. We are having, we can also set that here for AB, this is the subset, right? This is the superset. Obviously, we know that it can be clearly observed. So, if a rule is monotonic or if a rule is anti-monotonic, if it does not satisfy the constraint, if it does not satisfy the constraint C, for example, C is a constraint or condition. S is a item set. For example, consider this is my S. This is my, here AB is my item set. This includes two items A and B. So if an item set violates a condition, does not satisfy the condition, then it's a superset. Also does not satisfy the condition. If an item set obeys the condition, then its subset must obey the condition or must satisfy the condition. This is about anti-monotonic property. And coming to the monotonic property, if an item set yes satisfies the condition, its superset must satisfy the condition. If an item set does not satisfy the condition, its subset should not satisfy the condition. So this can be clearly, we can get clear idea about this by taking an example. Don't worry about it. Just I'm going to repeat it again. Just a second. So here, if I'm repeating again, here if an item set does not satisfy the condition, then its superset also does not satisfy that condition. So if an item set satisfies the condition, then it also satisfies the condition. That is the anti-monotone property. Here coming to the monotone, if an item set satisfies the condition, then its superset also satisfies the condition. If an item set does not satisfy the condition, its subset also does not obey the condition. Does not obey the condition. That is the monotone property. And let me explain it with an example. So here, for example, consider sum of prices of item sets. Sum of the prices of items present in that item set should be less than or equal to 100. Here is the given example. Let us consider that. For example, sum of the prices of items. So here the condition is sum of the items should be less than or equal to 100. So here the condition is sum of the items should be less than or equal to 100 is the given condition. Okay. For example, coming to the anti-monotonic property, for example, here our item set S, which includes A and B, does not satisfy the condition. So does not satisfying in the sense sum of the prices of A and B is greater than 100, right? Here item set does not satisfying the condition in the sense sum of the prices of A and B should be greater than 100. So if at all it doesn't satisfy the given condition, according to our anti-monotone property, the superset of the item is also does not obey the condition. Suppose if I am adding one more item to this, obviously its cost also greater than 100, right or not? Right or not? If you are purchasing two items, those cost is greater than 100, and again you want to purchase another item whose cost is very less, irrespective of the cost of the third item, even though its cost is 1 rupee also, it adds to that value, right? It adds to value. For example, its cost of AB is some 200, for example, which is greater than 100. So if you are going to purchase one more item, even though suppose its cost is only 1 rupee, it becomes 201, which is also greater than 100 only. So from this example, we can say that we can again I'm repeating that. So if at all the item set yes does not satisfy the condition, its superset also does not satisfy the condition. So if at all any constraint satisfies this rule, then we can say that that constraint belongs to the anti-monotonic. So again, we need to check the second one also. What is the check the second one? If any constraint, if any item set obey the condition, then its subset also obeys the condition. So item set here is AB. Here we are going to check the second part of the rule. What is that? If it obeys the condition. So what is the condition? Here is the condition. If it obeys the condition in the sense, sum of cost of item set A and B is less than or equal to 100. Cost of item set A and B is less than or equal to 100. That means it satisfies the condition. According to our second, this is the second phase of the rule. This is the second phase of the rule, and this is the first phase of the rule. We have just now look into the first phase of the rule. We are now going to look into the second phase of the rule. That is, if an item set obeys the condition. Obeying in the sense, some of the items of A and B should be A and B are less than or equal to 100. If the condition is true, the same condition is true for its subset also, according to our second phase of the anti-monotone property. So here the subsets of A include either A or either G. Since the sum of two items at price is less than 100, we can easily say that it's subset. The price of the subset is also obviously less than 100. There is no doubt in it, right? So this is about the anti-monotonic property. And here we are having some other examples. You can go through them. And let us coming to the second one, monotonic property. Here, again, consider the example given here. So here some of the condition, here the given condition is some of the items cost should be greater than or equal to 100. Let us just like said in the previous case, here is the phase 1, here is the phase 2 of the rule. Here is the phase 2 of the rule. So here in phase 1, if the item set obeys the condition, then its superset also obeys the condition, right? Then its superset also obeys the condition. So here, item set obeying the condition in the sense, if sum of A plus B is greater than or equal to 100. Superset in the sense, suppose you have purchased two items whose cost is more than 100. If you are going to purchase the third item also, obviously the total cost is greater than or equal to 100. So it satisfies the first phase of the rule. And coming to the second phase, what is the second phase? If the item set does not satisfy the condition, its subset also does not satisfy the condition. So here does not satisfying in the sum of the prices is less than 100. That means it does not satisfy the condition. Its subset also does not satisfy the condition. Yes. Here subset is either A or B. Obviously here, if at all the total cost is less than 100, individual cost is also less than 100. That means here the item set yes does not satisfy the condition, and the subset A and B also does not satisfy the condition, because our condition is greater than or equal to 100. So here, according to the anti-monotonic property, if an item set satisfies the condition, then its superset also satisfies the condition. If an item set does not satisfy the condition, then its subset also does not satisfy the condition. And here are some other examples you can go. So this is about the monotonic and monotonic Rules are monotonic properties are rule constraints. Coming to the next one, wait for a while, my screen is stuck in somewhere. Hope my screen is visible. Let us example consider the given here. Average of item price should be less than or equal to 10. Average of item price should be less than or equal to 10. For example, consider the case. So here, if you place the item, actually initially this constraint does not belong to any of the above three discussed constraints. But here now I am placing the order items in ascending order. Placing the items in ascending order. For example, cost of A is 10, cost of B is 20, and cost of C is 30. If my items are like this in ascending order, cost ascending order, then observe the same thing here. Now this constraint is belongs to the anti-monotone. This constraint belongs to the anti-monotone. Why? Because according to the anti-monotone property, if the constraint does not, if the item set does not satisfies the constraint, if suppose average of AB does not satisfy the constraint in the sense greater than 10, if the item set does not satisfy the constraint, then its superset also does not satisfy the constraint. Since the cost of C is greater than the cost of A and B, average of A, B, C also greater than 10. Similarly, what is the other phase of the anti-monotonic property? If the rule constraint, so if an item set satisfies the condition, its subset also satisfies the condition. If suppose item set satisfying the condition in the sense average of average price of A comma B is less than or equal to 10. Its subset in the sense average of A is also less than or equal to 10. Since we are placing this in ascending order. So what actually here is here for a given initial constraint, for a given initial constraint, initially it does not belong to any of the above said rule constraints. But whenever you have placed it in ascending order, you have placed it's in ascending order, then it should be convertible into anti-monotonic constraint. Similarly, whenever you have placed it in descending order, then the constraint becomes convertible into monotonic property, or the constraint obeys with the monotonic property. So those kinds of constraints are comes under convertible constraint. So it can be convertible. Initially, it doesn't belong to any of the three above. After that, if you are arranging it either in descending order or ascending order, then it can be convertible to monotonic or anti-monotonic. So such kind of constraint belongs to the convertible constraint. So you can also consider the same example and places the ABC in descending order. And you can consider like this: cost of A is 30, cost of B is 20, cost of C is 10. That means here the item sets are placed in descending order. So you can go with the second one, how it satisfies the monotonic property by yourself. Why? Because we are having the we are having the rules about what is monotonic and what is anti-monotonic. You can go through that. So here we are at the end of the third unit. So here these are the topics we have covered till now. Covered from the third unit. Mining frequent patterns, association rules, performance measures, market basket analysis we have covered, and different association rules, closed and maximal frequent item sets, and efficient frequent item set mining methods. And under this, we are having a priori method and FP close, and mining multi-level association, and mining multi-dimensional association rules, and from association mining to correlation analysis, and constraint-based mining. All these are the topics we have covered till now. So again, so this is the end of the third unit. And before going for the fourth unit, I just want to mention which kind of questions you can get at your exam from this third unit. Which kind of questions you can get from this third unit, and how to answer those questions. So this is most important than listening to the class, right? So listen carefully. Here, just I'm not telling about the essay questions, important questions, unimportant questions. I'm not telling about that. So consider this PPT as your material, and I'm going to share this PPT in the Edmodo. Okay. So from this PPT, if at all a question occurs in your exam from a particular topic, how to answer the question. The content is also present in the same PPT. No need to go for the other material or anything. Okay. So here, if at all they are asking about the pattern, what is pattern? Here, just you either it may be asked for a short answer question or it may be asked for a essay question. Irrespective of that, first you need to define that what is the pattern. If it is a 2 mark question, you can give an example. You can define that itself. If it is an essay question, you can elaborate that pattern, frequent pattern. What are the association rules formed on that pattern, like this. So here, you can simply you can tell that the pattern is a sequence of action and helps in future prediction. So what is the frequent pattern? Here, if a pattern repeats frequently for particular certain number of times, based on the by satisfying a given threshold, you can set that it is a frequent pattern. So, like this definition, you need to write that. You need to mention this. Again, you need to mention why frequent patterns are essential. What's the role of the frequent patterns? They are used in associations and correlations like that. You need to mention that also. Along with, and that means I am telling about the key points. Along with this, you can elaborate your answer. So I am just highlighting the key points. That means if a question is posed in your exams from this topic, first we need to highlight these kind of points. If at all you highlight these kind of points in your examination, the examiner or uh, the person who is going to correct your papers may feel this. He has some idea or she has some idea about that topic. After mentioning the key points, you can elaborate as your in your own way. You can elaborate in your own way. Okay. So whatever the key points I'm highlighting, those points should be present or should be highlighted in your exam also. So coming to the association rules, they may ask that what is the association rule? Explain about that. So here first and foremost step is those are generated from the frequent patterns. Here everything is connected, right? Frequent patterns are obtained from patterns initially. So initially for obtaining the frequent patterns, we want the pattern. So based on its frequency, the frequency of occurrence, you can decide whether it is a frequent pattern or not. So if at all a frequent pattern is asked for essay question, you can you can start writing from the pattern only. Similarly, association rules. So those are generated from the frequent patterns only. So for association rules also, if you get this question as an essay question, you can start writing some frequent patterns only. Otherwise, it is a short answer question. You can write briefly or specifically. So here you need to write about its origin. That means those are generated from the frequent patterns, and these are basically the if-then rules. And you need to write about the measures, interestingness measures, and My voice is audible. My voice is audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Some internet connectivity problem is there because I'm connecting my mobile hotspot. That's the problem. So here you need to write about the support and confidence. You can mention, you must mention this. Market basket analysis is the best example of the association of mining, and you need to mention finally association rules are should satisfy the support and confidence level. So if the same thing is given asked about the asked for essay question, you need to elaborate on, you need to more focus on, you need to give more stress on market basket analysis, and you can give more stress on how support and confidence are calculated. You can take an example like that based on the marks they have asked. You need to elaborate that. But before that, irrespective of the marks, if a question is posed about particular topic, the highlighted points which I have highlighted, those points you should present first. You should elaborate first. So if it is a short answer question, that is enough. If it is a long answer question, you need to elaborate each and every point further. For example, here if then rules I am telling. So you can elaborate. If it is a long answer question, you can elaborate by taking an example. Here is an example. So here is the if part, here is the then part. These are the and here you can write some association rule. Actually, this is the theoretical part of the example. You can write some association rule. You already know that, right? Here, if at all you mentioned this point, under this you can elaborate how to calculate support and confidence. What are the rules for I mean, what are the formulas? And take an example. Small example is there that is also present in the PPT like this. And here, if you mention this point under this, you can write about this. That means all Boolean association rules are belonging to that market basket analysis. What is that market basket analysis? Briefly, not in depth. So like that, based on the question posed in your exam, based on the marks and allocated to that, you can elaborate your answer. You no need to stick to the particular points like that. But the highlighted points are the basic points which you need to present in the exam for that question, irrespective of the marks assigned for associated for this. So here is an example. If you want to elaborate, you can take that example. You can write how to calculate support and confidence like this. And here are the rules for the support and confidence. So the definitions of the support and confidence. If at all the question is like write about support and confidence, then you can start from this. So these are the interestingness measures, and these are used in association rules. And is the formulas. Here is the definition. Take an example. If at all the rule satisfies both these support and confidence, then that rule is a strong rule. So all this, everything is in your PPT itself. So you can identify the important points and you can elaborate from that slide only. So you can take an example. You can go through that. So this particular slide can be useful for to answer the question related to association rule as well as to answer the question related to the support and confidence like this. So you are going to generate your answer by your own way as your final year. You are not in the first year or second year. So don't habitate it to the don't attach it to the spoon feeding kind of learning. Okay. So here is another example you can take, or you can Google. You can Google by typing examples of association rules or examples of support and confidence. You can get more rules if at all you are particularly comfortable with any kind of example. You can go through that, no problem. So if at all this question is asked for in your exam, first you need to write about the what is the market basket analysis. You need to write. Actually, here I forget to highlight. I think so. Two more minutes are there. I will try to complete as much as I can. So here, okay, I will highlight the key points before I am going to post in the Edmodo, no problem. So here, if at all market basket analysis is asked in your exam, you need to write the aim. You need to write what is the aim actually. You need to write uh, about the basic concept of that. What is the idea behind it? You need to write about that. And what is the basic thing to understand the purchasing behaviors of the customer. So you need to write its aim. Excuse me. So you need to write that it is associated with some Boolean variable, and each transaction should be represented with a Boolean vector is there. And you can write the example of rule. you you can explain an example. And again, here are this is depends upon the marks assign marks provided to the question. If at all it is an essay question, you can go with the applications also. If at all it is a short answer question, the previous slides are enough. So here you can elaborate explaining about the applications also. So you need to write the list of all applications and you can explain by your own words. No need to by heart here, right? So here coming to the different association rules. First, you need to mention all the list of different association rules. What are the different association rules? Multi-level association, multiple association, like this Boolean associations. Like this, we are having different types. So again, go through each one and explain each concept, like multi-level association. So why it is called as multi-level, and give an example. What is the multi-level? What is the single level? You can explain theoretically along with an example. Any question you can explain like that. So similarly, based on number of dimensions here, you can theoretically you need to write something regarding this. Again, not simply mentioning the examples, you need to write something. So what to write here? There is nothing in PPT. Then how can we write something? You may ask like this. So what you get by just observing the example, what you get from this single dimension. So here only you are having one dimension, multi-dimension. You are having multiple dimensions. So write the same thing. So if at all an association rule consisting of the one dimension, then it comes under single dimension association rule. Example is like this. Here in this example, if you observe that you are having only one dimension, that is by that is enough. So coming to the multi-dimensional association rule. If at all you are having multiple dimensions, that is more than one dimension is there in the association rule, then that belongs to the multi-dimensional association rule. So this is an example. If you consider this example, here we are having three different dimensions. Those are age, income, bike. So this comes under multi-dimensional association rule. Like this, what you can get from the example, you can write the same thing in the paper. So I think that time is over. I'm going to continue this explanation in the next class. And in the next class, probably I will try to start the fourth unit. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to leave it. Thank you.